in finance or in development, and they rely on other people. They surround themselves with people who are super bright in those areas. So where you know you're not strong, right? Where you know you're doing, there's a part of what you have to do that you're not good at, find somebody who is. Ask them questions. Learn from them, right? And that's, that's the only way we get better. That's the only way we get better. So I get through the 80s, and I do get this one amazing job, though. I get to be the opening manager on duty, night manager for the Marriott Marquis in New York. So I opened that big hotel in Times Square. Before Times Square was what it is today. Times Square, there's an HBO show called The Deuce, right? That's what Times Square was. And when we opened up the Marriott Marquis down there, and you see it every New Year's Eve, it's where they do Dick Clark's Rockin' whatever, and it's right there. I learned a lot about problem solving, resource management, and a whole lot of other things. So I did learn something. So they built this hotel, right? It's like 1,800 rooms, 46 stories, but they didn't give it enough parking. So we only had 200 parking spaces in this hotel, right? Parking in New York is a premium item, but they just didn't give it enough parking. So we didn't let a car sit there for more than 2 or 3 days without being moved or being used until then we would start calling whoever owned that car and say, hey, are you still here? Are you using this parking space? If they were registered to the hotel, fine, we didn't have a problem. But if it was a car that wasn't registered to the hotel, which people parked there who weren't staying in the hotel, because we had a 5,000 seat Broadway theater in the hotel as well, and 12 different restaurants, so it wasn't unusual. So we had a car that had been sitting there for 3 days, and the process was the garage manager would reach out, see if he could contact the owner and find out. So they reach out and they can't get a hold of the owner, and so what we would do then is we would tow the car to a pound, and we'd leave it there for the owner to go pick up and pay for. So, but there were some things that we used to do before we would, have the car towed. We had to call the police and let them know we were doing this. We would also typically go through the car to make sure there was nothing, dangerous in there. So I get a call, and the garage manager, we shared an office, right? Because the other thing that they didn't do at this hotel was build enough office space. So we used the rooms on the 9th floor as our offices. Because if anybody been to the Marquis in New York, Marriott Marquis? Okay, so the front desk is on the 8th floor, right? So with the 9th floor right above that was where our offices was. So I shared an office, my team shared an office with the garage manager. So his name was Ken, he calls me up and goes, hey, got a car, we're getting ready to be towed. So I'm manager on duty, I had to sign some paperwork, I go down there. And as I'm getting down there, the police are already there signing their paperwork. And the cop says, hey, have you guys gone through this car? And I looked at Ken and I said, have you? He goes, no, we didn't. So the cop says, all right, let's just look through it real quick. So they look in the front seat, back seat, nothing. He pops the trunk open, and I kid you not, guys, there were 5 garbage bags filled with cash. Garbage bags. Not the little tall kitchen bag. These were the big, dark green, filled with 10s, 20s, 100s. Not new bills, wrapped up in rubber bands. And I just looked at our garage manager, and I made a face. It's like, you son of a... The one car we don't look through, this could have changed our I was 23, maybe 24. Ken was maybe 27. I just looked at him and I was like, he's done. You kidding me, right? So they took it away. I learned a lot more than that working for Marriott. Marriott transferred me to Chicago. I worked for them for a while there, and then in 1994, I had gotten back into sales. I was now the director of sales for a brand called Homewood Suites. And there's about 500 Homewood Suites open today, but I opened up the 5th one outside Chicago. And I had been there for 4 years. We had a ton of success. It was a great concept, still is. And I get a job. My wife makes a comment like, hey, you know, I'm getting tired I'd like to take some time off. You need to make some more money. And I was like, oh, okay. So, you know, we got memos from the corporate office, and there was an org chart. And on this org chart, there was in a box, TBD, to be determined. So I just happened to know the guy above that box. Because we had worked on a project together, we had formed a relationship, we had collaborated together, and I called him up and I said, hey William, what's the skinny on this box? And he said, well, here's what we're looking for, are you interested? I said, hell yes. He says, well, you gotta, right now, you have to say that I didn't ask you if you were interested, because they weren't allowed to pluck people out of the franchise community. And so we agreed. He flew me in, that was I think I talked to him on a Tuesday. Thursday I was here in Memphis, and we agreed and shook hands over the phone that Sunday. So all of a sudden I'm moving to Memphis, right? I had a 2-year-old daughter. I was been married for maybe 6-7 years, and we're moving to Memphis. Now, I'm not saying it was real culture shock, because the move from New York to Chicago was pretty traumatic for me. I mean, just getting used to the time zone. I mean, what do you mean the news comes on at 10? What do you mean 10 o'clock news? But I got used to that. And then I came down here, and I realized that the people down here were not going to move any quicker, no matter how much I asked, how much of a jerk I made of myself. So I settled in. And I got this job as director of field marketing for Hampton Inns in 1994. And at that time, there were about 300, not quite 400 Hampton Inns open. Today, there's almost 3,000 of them open. So when I was with Hampton for 6 years, my job as director of field marketing was to work with every new owner in a specified region. Mine was the Northeast and the Middle Atlantic. Work with everybody who was opening a hotel up there, making sure that they knew exactly what was expected of them, what their sales and marketing strategy was going to be, and make sure they got through all our required training. So I opened up about 400 Hampton Inns during my time working with Hampton Inn, and I visited I visited every little shithole town that had a gas station, a Walmart, and a university in it, right? I stopped at so many different exits on highways, because that's where Hamptons really started developing, was as a highway exit hotel, right? But I learned a lot about why people build hotels. I learned a lot about people, what makes people tick. I learned a lot about diversity and how to behave and how to respect other people's cultures. I learned a lot about customer service, and I learned that business travel just sucks, right? I was on the road 200 plus nights a year, and obviously this was pre 9/11, so you would just show up at the airport 10 minutes before your flight and get to the gate and you were off. But then those things changed, and the planes got smaller, and business travel today, for who's traveled within the last 30 days, gotten on a plane, done all that, right? Business travel sucks. How long do I have?
5:15.
Business travel sucks, right? So you leave your house, you get to the airport, TSA loves to see you, so that you can take off half of your clothes, get through there, get screened, groped, whatever, right? Then you get down to the gate, right? And airlines are known for their customer service, right? And lack of, and over communicating to you the situation at hand. All that for the privilege of sitting butt cheek to butt cheek with some complete stranger and then wrestling for dominance of the armrest, right? So that you can get to your location where you don't know where you're going, get into a rental car that you've never driven before, finally find your destination. Hopefully you're on your way to a hotel. You get to your hotel, you're wheeling your luggage up to the desk, and what do they say to you 90% of the time? Are you checking in? No, schmuck, I am here to show you the latest in Samsonite luggage. Of course I'm checking in. So we, as hospitality, and especially in the hotel industry, we have the ability to change somebody's day. By the time people show up to your hotel or to your restaurant after they've been traveling, let me just tell you, they feel dirty, right? Because we know an airplane is just a giant petri dish filled with God knows what. I've been traveling, I just feel dirty. And so you, as hospitality professionals, have the profound ability to change their day with some act of kindness and compassion. So instead of, if you're checking people in and they walk up rolling their suitcase, don't say to them, are you checking in? Say to them, where have you been? We have been waiting for you. I was worried. You'll catch them off guard and they'll feel great. So these are the little things. You have to try to put yourself in the guest's shoes, your customer's shoes as you're serving them. And you've already found that nobility to do it, so all of a sudden it becomes fun. It becomes fun. Yeah, I'm going to tell you there are days that